But excited to have Christine with us. Has done a lot of work in this area, and yes, there's a theological side and understanding side, but there's also a practical. How do we live this out in a way that affects our body, but also more than that, she'll go into physically, emotionally too. And so excited to have Christine with us. After, she has a table upstairs set up with some more info, and I believe you're selling your cookbook and a couple other things up there, and would love for you to engage with her up there as well. So she will take, if we can, some Q&A, but she will also kind of go up there so that other people can talk. But, thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Tim. All right, is this on? Yeah, good. Thank you, Mer. All right, I asked Tim to start a minute ahead of time just because I have so many slides and I'm really trying to condense about 10 hours of material into 50 minutes, yeah. So fasten your seatbelts, it's going to be a very fast ride. There's a lot of information. And having said that, I don't want you leaving this seminar feeling more overwhelmed and I have to do more, right? That's not the point of this. I want you really feeling like, as I listen to this workshop, Lord, convict me in that one or two areas or three areas where you know I need to work. And I have a handout. If you didn't pick a handout up on that little table at the back, make sure you grab one. There's a spot in there to, even as you listen to this seminar, write down those things that you hear that resonate with you, that you think, I need that, I need to do that, so you can write that down. But thank you, Grandview, for the warm invitation to be here with you today. I'm really honored to be here. And yeah, you've come to listen to the top 5 tips for optimal health and wellness and balance. And I've tried to make this workshop as practical and tangible as I possibly can. The healthier you are, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the healthier you are, the more energy you're going to have. And I believe you'll be able to really serve and honor the Lord with the purpose that He's created you for. So that's really where we're going to try and go today. So top 5 tips. Being busy, as I said, I think in that little brochure, has become a cultural expectation, if not a badge of honor. And I hear a lot of people, even maybe unknowingly, wear that badge of honor with a great deal of pride. I'm so busy. And sadly, this is, I believe, affecting us, not just physically, mentally, and emotionally, but I can make a pretty good case for why and how it's affecting us spiritually. So God created us with limitations that require refueling. Why is that? There's a very good reason for that. And I felt like after listening to Kelly this morning and even the Q&A, I thought, wow, I could go home and pack it up. Like, he said so many wonderful practical things that really resonated with me. And if you heard a little amen here and there, that was probably me. So my goal again today is not to further burden you and make you walk away from here going, oh, I've got all this other stuff to do on top of my very busy schedule. It's not to guilt you, it's not to shame you, but it's to encourage you to re-examine your expectations primarily, and then the demands that you often place on your life, so that you can eliminate what I call the non-essentials and make more time for the God-designed essentials. And as I was reading an article online from Kelly, I took this little quote out. To help you replace efficiency and productivity with love as the highest value. I loved that. I thought that was such a powerful, powerful phrase. So as you listen today again, ask yourself what's resonating. What is she saying that is really hitting me and convicting me and provoking me? That little elbow in your ribs. Where is He prompting me and convicting me to make some changes? And then again, write some of those changes that you feel convicted to work at on the handout that I've given. Where do we start? I really wanted to start with our culture because I often tell clients that we need to live counterculture. That's so so important because the culture's always shouting at us, right? And I feel like there's this pull. So as I was thinking about this a few months ago, preparing for today, I really started to see, and I think for those of us in the room that are maybe 50 and over, 60 and over, you've probably seen the biggest shift in some of these areas. But as we saw increasing prosperity in our culture, we started to achieve more free time. And with that free time, I think the church, this is how I put it, the church has slowly and then very quickly been sucked into the culture's demands on how to use that free time. Many of us now live, eat, drink, and hurry just like the culture. Many of us are chronically stressed, worn out, and often feel sick and tired like the world. So what do we do? And this just came to me yesterday as I was working with somebody, and it really struck me that I don't think maybe we've underestimated the fact that busyness creates adrenaline in the body. And what does adrenaline do? Right? So when we trigger adrenaline, we then trigger dopamine. And dopamine is that feel-good hormone. It makes me feel good. And so the busier I am, and I get some of those rewards back, it can reinforce some of those behaviors to continue to be busy. That rewires the brain, and I love that little bottom box. When we don't get this dopamine hit, life starts to feel very boring. And I've seen that with people. I've seen that. It's like they almost feel they're either bored or they feel guilty for having a free night at home with nothing to do. But hopefully after this weekend's conference, we're not going to leave here feeling that guilt or shame, right? We're going to see God has hardwired my body to need rest. So it's time to get off the proverbial hamster wheel, right? Many of us feel like we are on that hamster wheel, and I think it often takes, for us and our family, Dwayne and I are both very type A personalities, and we're very driven to go, go, go. But when you have something physical happen to you, when you hit a brick wall of physical suffering, I think God often uses that to make you stop dead in your tracks, and you have to reevaluate. And that's very much happened in our family in the last few years. So that really helped us redefine, I think it's still a work in progress, but how do we redefine our lifestyle? So what happens when we compromise God's design? So God's hardwired us to, designed us to be this way. And why is that? I've often asked the Lord, like, why did you hardwire us to sleep a third of our life away? Right? Like, that's a lot of time that we could be busy and getting way more done. And when you're an achiever, that feels frustrating. So my story, I grew up in a very busy, I would call it a workaholic farming home. And my mother married into a quasi-Mennonite family, and she learned very early on in her married years that to be a good wife, she needed to know how to make pie. And lots of it, and cake and cookies. Like, it was not uncommon for us to come home after school and see 6 pies on the table and a dozen cookies. That was not unusual in a big family. And so that groomed my sweet tongue, and we like to cutesy that up, right? Really, sugar addiction. And that led for me to a whole series of problems as I got into my late teens and 20s. Obesity, I give myself 3 straight A's for these 3 A's, allergies, asthma, and arthritis. I was diagnosed with all 3 and medicated for them. Profuse eczema, and by that I mean it was not uncommon for me to wake up stuck to my bed sheets or glued to my pajamas. The open oozing sores all over my body were, I was put on corticosteroid creams for over 20 years of my life, And to the point where the last skin specialist that saw me, he looked at me and he threw the tube of cream across his desk and he slammed his hand down. He said, "You should never have been prescribed this for your hands." And I said, "Doctor, for my hands, I've put that wherever I've had eczema." And he looked at me and he said, "Roll up your sleeves." So I rolled up my sleeves and he looked at my arms and he said, "It is an absolute miracle." And I said, "Well, what is?" He said, "This is the strongest male steroid cream that we have on the market. You should have long, dark male hair growing out of you wherever you have put this." So I'm thankful that I don't look like a gorilla standing up here today. But based on what that doctor said, I should, and I'm very thankful, but it destroyed my liver. A whole other sequence of events really stemmed from that as well. So this really led to a recipe for disaster. Here I was, 22, going on 23. My health was a shipwreck. I was living in Waterloo at the time. I can actually show you the stoplight where I physically fell asleep at a stoplight because I was so fatigued. I was very, very unwell. But I'm here to say that when I started living more and more like God designed me to live, my body began to slowly heal. And if I can do it, honestly, if I can do it as a sugar addict, anyone can do it. So when I started coaching, before I started coaching, I had this dramatic transformation as I started making choices that were closer and closer to God's design in food and fuel. Fuel is what I call food, and exercise, and just my lifestyle was healthier. I lost not only that 55 pounds, but all of those 3 straight A's in my eczema literally disappeared. And so I had family and friends coming up to me saying, "Wow, what have you done? Can you help me?" And so that's literally how I started coaching. I was teaching at the time, and I love teaching, so now I'm honored to be able to teach people who really want to learn about these topics. So when I started coaching, I wanted to define what is that for me? What is a coach going to help someone do? So this quote, I believe, came to me as I was praying one day. Every moment of every day, you are making choices, and those choices collectively create habits. And all of those habits collectively create your lifestyle. And your lifestyle ultimately determines the quality of your life. And I could probably make a pretty good argument for quantity as well. So my philosophy really is grounded on 4 pillars. I really try to zero in on emotional health, mental health, spiritual, and physical health. So obviously I have clients that come to me that have no faith and do not want to talk about faith, so I respect that. But it's very difficult to talk to people like that because God is the author and designer of this whole thing, right? And so that's really where I try to start with people. And spiritually, we just can't ignore the fact that we are spiritual beings. So a healthy lifestyle choice, your choices contribute. I love alliteration, so I do have a lot of words that start with the same letter. So when you think about it, every single choice that you make collectively creates your lifestyle, and your every single choice either contributes to health or harm. I've not yet thought of one single neutral choice. Every choice, whether you wake up in time, whether you decide to brush your teeth or not, every single choice you make, it's not neutral. It either contributes to health or it contributes to harm. Your choices also have a powerful ripple effect that continue for generations and generations. And research has proven this time and time again. The choices that you make are often passed on to your children and their children and so on. So what choices are you making that are going to be passed on? It's a really provocative thought to think about that. The reality is that we spend far too much time, energy, and money on the non-essentials. And for each of us, non-essentials are going to be likely defined very uniquely, right? What I might consider a non-essential, you might say, no, that's absolutely an essential for me in my life. So it's really thinking about that and reevaluating. So when I'm starting with clients, one of the first things I always say is the single most important thing that you can do for your health is to change your thinking. You will never change your choices until you change your thinking. That has to shift first. And we have to stop allowing our culture to dictate, what we do, how we eat, how we live. And again, I think we are bombarded by media, right? The messages from media. I love what Kelly said at the end about media, our phones in particular. But we get so many lies from the media. I think about convenience foods, right? You can have it all. Just run, and just grab and go your convenience foods. It won't matter. And medicine, how many commercials do we see about you're sick, take this pill or take this over the counter, and then you can go to work, or then you can take your kids to soccer practice, when really that message is being sent to your body. You're not well. God's designed you to need rest. And the message, more money and you will have it all. So I encourage you today to really think about what I'm sharing. Be ruthless and trim your schedule down to the essentials for 1 to 2 months. So that's one of my many, many challenges today. If that resonates with you, I encourage you to try that. I think spring and summer are the perfect time to do that because we're in slightly different schedules. But I think it's important to take at least a month, maybe 2 months, and trim away all of the non-essentials and just focus on what has God designed my body to need and to do. Do those well, and then reevaluate. And at the end of that reevaluation time, ask the Lord, okay, what is most important? What do I need to do, and what do I need to trim away? And again, before we dive right into this very deep topic, I want you to remember not to be overwhelmed by today's seminar. You're going to come away from here with 101 different things that you could be, should be doing. You're not going to walk away from here saying, I'm starting tomorrow, I'm going to do all these things. Like, that's just impossible, right? But take one thing and do it really, really well until it becomes habit, and then move on to another goal. So our well-being needs to be a priority over more money, greater career advancements, and more stuff. We need to realize the profound impact that our choices are having on my health, my family, and ultimately the church. Maybe you feel a little like this woman already. I'm a wife, a mother, a daughter, an executive, a cook, a housekeeper, a teacher, a chauffeur, and a soccer coach. That's only 19 pounds per woman. So you see what she's saying? She's saying, like, I'm so busy, right? I've got all these things that I have to do. It's often also an excuse that we use to not tackle the most important things that need the hard work. So we're not trending well. These are Waterloo Region stats, but essentially all of it's to say we are more obese than ever, we are more inactive than ever, and we're not eating well. And I think when we look around, we can see that slowly happening, especially, again, if you've been around for a while. So I've had the privilege of looking through photo albums, right? And you go back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you never saw families like we see on the right. I had never, ever seen families like that. And now we're seeing more and more obesity and morbid obesity. So it's a huge concern. And obesity is at an all-time high. And it grieves me because I've been there. I know what that feels like. In fact, when I was studying at Laurier, obesity then was defined as anything over 20 pounds. You don't hear that anymore. So our normal Our definitions are even changing. According to WHO, so these are statements from the very, very conservative World Health Organization. In 2007, cancer was accounting for 13% of worldwide deaths. And this is a direct quote. This could be lowered by lifestyle changes. In 2023, it's estimated, and I just read these current stats, they're a little higher than this, 2025's yesterday. It's an estimated 10.4 million cancer deaths globally and nearly 20 million new cases of cancer annually. And some of them have been defined as turbo cancers, so they have quick, sudden onset. Almost 42% are linked to modifiable risk factors. What does modifiable mean, everybody? You can change it, exactly, and that's the point. Cancer was linked to 17% of worldwide deaths in 2025. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of all global deaths. And here's a direct quote from the World Health Organization again. Most important causes are diet, physical inactivity, tobacco use, causing an increase in blood pressure, blood glucose and lipid levels, and of course, obesity. Direct quote, these modifiable risk factors are responsible for 80% of this problem. Now, the WHO is not like, they're not health nuts like me. I would suggest, I would actually dare to say, I think it's higher than 80, but at least they're saying it's at least 80. So that's significant. Modifiable means changeable, right? He orders, I'll have some heart disease, high blood pressure with a side of clogged arteries and some tooth decay. So what is that saying, really? Like, he knows what he's ordering. He knows it's unhealthy. He's calling it what it is. But what do most of us do because we're addicts? We order it anyway. It feels good. I want that quick little hit, right? And there are all sorts of brain chemicals, neurochemicals that are connected to that and why that is. Addiction runs very deep when it comes to food. So, in every single audience I've ever addressed for almost 23, 24, 25 years, I've asked this question, and every single audience gets it right. What is the #1 excuse of all time for why I can't make changes? Yep. I don't have time, I'm too busy. Every audience gets it every single time. So what are your excuses? They'll be different than mine. We all have them, but I think it's important to look at what are my excuses, and we have to be ruthless at eliminating them. Work, family, busy schedule, too much of a learning curve, I can't afford the changes. There might be valid reasons there, but we have to be very careful to not use them as excuses for not making healthy changes. So, my 5 fundamentals that we're going to dive into are the following. And like I said, optimal fuel in my workshop. So I have a 6-week health and wellness workshop. I've advertised it up on my table. So fuel, for instance, I spend 2 hours just talking about food and fuel. So this is going to just know this is going to be a very, very quick general overview. So optimal fuel is real food. What does that mean? It's in its natural, God-made state. It's whole food with little to no food processing. It's clean. I love that word. It's clean. So it has no additives and preservatives in it. It includes lots of raw food. It also includes the Trinity, I like to call it, and I just see God's echo, or his fingerprint all throughout, even food. It's so amazing. There are 3 macronutrients: carbs, proteins, and fats. And I recommend that in every single meal, you make sure you have this completed triangle, this little completed trinity. So look at your plate. Do I have healthy carbs, healthy fats, and healthy proteins in every meal? One of the other phrases that I love to use is eat the rainbow. So again, God creates this beautiful rainbow, right? And he echoes that in creation in our food supply. We have beautiful red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, all represented in our food supply. And the really cool thing is that each color represents very unique phytonutrients, phyto being plant, so plant-based nutrients, and they're very anti-inflammatory. Inflammation is the root of disease, and if we can reduce inflammation, we can reduce chronic disease and pain. And so I try to encourage clients to have a minimum of 30, upwards of 40 to 45 different plants represented in 1 week. In 1 week. And some of you are looking at me like horrified, like, whoa, is she crazy? But I challenge you to do that. There's one little suggestion of a goal you can try. Keep a food journal for a week and have your food journal be listed as red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, right, violet. And every time you eat something that comes from a plant, write that food underneath the color that it represents. And after a week, look at that list and see, do I have a good variety of foods from each of those colors? The blues and purples are typically some of the hardest to get. You don't need as many of them, but that's a challenge. It's a challenge to give you. Eat the rainbow. And I want you to start thinking outside the box. That means limit your boxed, canned, and manufactured food. Like, it's not a coincidence that it's called manufactured food. It's man-altered, and it's always for profit. It's rarely to be beneficial to you. So most prepared convenience foods contain unrecognizable ingredients. Many foods consumed daily are even toxic. Additives are often added to inexpensively increase shelf life, improve the taste, texture, and of course, profit. Rarely are added ingredients added to benefit your health. So, for those of you who visited my table upstairs, you can see part of this science fair experiment that my daughter did in grade 7. She cut open an apple, a potato, and a banana, and an unpreserved piece of bread, and laid that on a cookie sheet. The same night, she went with Dwayne to Timmy's and McDonald's and picked up a cheeseburger and French fries, and very wisely, I thought, the healthiest looking bagel possible. After a couple of weeks, the food was stinking the dining room up, and I said, Sarah, you got to bag that up because this is reeking up the house. So she put it, and she knew both sides of the experiment had to be treated equally. So she bagged up both sides. And what was very interesting for me to observe was the healthy, whole, God-made clean food, the rate of decomposition accelerated very quickly once it was trapped in those bags. But the 16-and-a-half-year-old cheeseburger and fries and bagel are still looking pretty perfect if you look up on my desk upstairs. Yeah, and I knew it was going to be bad. But when she Googled, why, what are the ingredients, I knew it was going to be alarming, but I had no idea how bad. I was shocked. Like things like dimethyl polysiloxane. It's used in rocket fuel. Why is it being added to our French fries? Azodicarbonamide, which is used to create foamed plastics. Why is that being used in our breads and even in some of our flour? So it's alarming. It's not how God hardwired our cells, right? Biochemically, our cells do not recognize those additives. So the further we get away from those foods, the healthier your body, your skin, your organs, your brain become. I often hear clients say, yeah, but it's got like, that avocado has way more calories than, this half a bagel. But it's not just a calorie issue. I tell people that all the time. It's not a calorie issue. She says, which burns more calories, chewing pizza or chewing a cheeseburger? Right? Get the joke? And this is the thing. We often simplify it. And I believe that the term calories has done more harm than any good it's ever done. It is not a calorie issue. Because I eat more calories now than I did when I was 55 pounds heavier. But I'm eating calories that my body recognizes as God-designed fuel. So my body knows how to absorb that food, utilize the nutrients, excrete the waste all very efficiently. The cheeseburger and fries up there are still sitting there. In fact, the fries, the French fry bags, the outside bag is the fourth bag. The plastic bags are breaking down faster than the food inside of it. Food, I'll, air quotes there. So healthy food is life-giving. It's in its original created state. It's from scratch, made by you. It's food that you can pronounce. Who wants to try and pronounce dimethylpolysiloxane? And it's food that is biochemically recognized by your cells. So read the ingredients labels. In fact, after this health science fair experiment that Sarah did, we were grocery shopping one day, and this was Sarah. She looked at this bag. It was Robin Hood 100% whole wheat flour. She said, "Mom, look at the ingredients." And it said 100% whole wheat flour and azodicarbonamide. They'd added that to the bag of flour. Why? That ingredient that they use to create foamed plastics. Why? Why is that? Why was that in your food? Now, there's been a lot of backlash. I think Subway was one of the first companies to sort of acknowledge, oh, we're going to take the azodicarbonamide out of our buns. But robbing Peter to pay Paul, I don't know. I'd like to know what else are they putting in? What's different? So it's just slightly different. Is it any better? I don't know. Your bread, Dwayne makes homemade sourdough bread every week. And that bread, if it sits out, it's rotting and molding in a couple of days. Your food should naturally rot and go bad. It's supposed to, because God made your food to break down. Why? So that when you eat it, it easily breaks down so that your body can access the nutrients. And the fiber is the waste that your body doesn't use other than to help scrub out and keep clean. Right? So consume more nutrient-dense foods. We're looking at high-quality protein, carbs, and fats, EVCP. Anybody know what that stands for, EVCP? Extra virgin cold pressed. Yeah, extra virgin cold pressed. That's what you want to look at when you're looking at fats. And then consume more fiber and water. Canadians, North Americans in general, but Canadians we're failing in this area of fiber and water. We're not nearly drinking enough water, and we're getting most people are less than half of the daily fiber that they need. So for hydration, I say that the average adult requires between 2 and 3 liters of water a day, and of course that depends on men and women and your size, your weight, whether you're pregnant, how hard you're physically working. It sort of varies and depends on a number of things. Herbal teas are great. Remember, coffee is dehydrating. And I encourage people to try and limit their coffee to 1 or 2 a week. I usually get booed when I say that, but that's ideal. And then, of course, to eliminate the sugar and to eliminate the sodas and the juices and sugar-filled drinks. Just remember that God-designed fuel is optimal fuel. And it's optimal because it's created. It's God-designed fuel for your body. It's biochemically recognized. We're going to fly into exercise. So here's a provocative question. When is the last time that you moved your body in an intentional way to promote fitness for at least 30 minutes for 30 consecutive days? Right? I see people looking around like, ooh, that's a big one. I want to encourage all of you, if you can go to that spot on your take-home handout sheet and just highlight 23 and a half hours. That video, it has millions of views. Dr. Mike Evans is a fabulous doctor out of the University of Toronto. He created this really cute sort of cartoon video, and it's on exercise. And he says everyone's given 24 hours a day. You can do whatever you want with 23 and a half of them. But for 30 minutes every day, you need to move your body intentionally. And these are some of the stats that he found. Look at the reduction in dementia and Alzheimer's symptoms, depression, anxiety, arthritic pain, diabetes, postmenopausal symptoms in women. So exercise is incredibly powerful. And it's ironic that the more conveniences we have to give us more time, the more we just fill our life with, right? We're not working, we're not physically working. Think about going to the grocery store, pushing a cart around with wheels, so it's really, really easy, filling my cart. And think of 200 years ago. What did you have to do to have that much food? Think of the amount of physical labor that was involved. So that kept people strong and healthy. So we need to get back moving. 30 minutes, 6 to 7 days a week. What does that do? It also increases human growth hormone. HGH is, the fun term is the fountain of youth. So exercise produces an increase of human growth hormone. It increases your metabolism, immunity. It helps to naturally detoxify you. It helps you to sleep more effectively. It reduces stress, inflammation, aging, illness, and disease. It also helps you to increase your lean muscle mass. And there are some studies that suggest that if you were to put on, that means gain, 10 pounds of muscle on your body, that the accelerated metabolism from all that muscle can help contribute to up to 50-pound weight loss in 1 year, while also strengthening your bones. Exercise has a dramatic impact on your bones. And as we age, we need that, especially women, because we're naturally born with less muscle than men. I love this slide. So the most effective exercise is the one you will do. I say that to my clients all the time. I don't care what it is you do what you love, and then you will do it. It won't feel like you're begrudging this activity. So a study out of Australia reported that each hour of sitting reduced life expectancy by 22 minutes. We've already lost almost 44 minutes off of our life. And this is one of my favorite quotes out of McMaster. As time goes on, paper after paper after paper shows the most effective, potent way we can improve quality of life and duration of life is exercise. Mark says, if there was a drug that could perform as well as exercise, it would likely be considered the most valuable pharmaceutical known to mankind. Isn't that incredible? It's really provocative. So it's something we all know we should do, and often when I go to this slide, I see this kind of slouching in the chairs, and I know I need to do it, but I don't do this every single day. And I tell clients all the time, I don't care if you only have 10 minutes. 10 minutes is still better than no minutes, right? So if that's all you have on that particular day, do something to move your body for 10 minutes. We're going to move on to sleep. Now we're going to start to yawn. We've been slouching, and we just had a big lunch, and our tummy is full, and it's very easy to now want to sleep. So sleep has decreased by about 20% in the last 100 years in North America. There are lots of reasons for that. Canada and the US are tied for the third worst out of 13 countries. Yeah, that's not a surprise to me. And again, there are lots of reasons for that. Sleep deprivation is considered anything for adults less than 7 hours of sleep. Adults need, in quiet, horizontal, dark, no screens, no light, no nothing, 7 to 9 hours per night. That is your minimum goal to aim for. Poor quality or insufficient sleep contributes to the following: brain shrinkage, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, obesity, high blood pressure, increase in depression and anxiety, and cancer. That's all proven. And sleep is powerfully anti-inflammatory. We were talking about that earlier. So the brain during sleep also increases the amount of, it starts to secrete and produce human growth hormone. So where was the other area of our lifestyle where the body produces human growth hormone? What did I mention? Exercise, exactly. So during exercise and sleep, the body produces human growth hormone, and HGH tells the body to burn fat, build muscle, tighten your skin, and it really essentially slows aging. And you can see that with people. I've run into so many teacher friends of mine who are looking ragged at the end of their career, and they retire, they're sleeping better, they're more relaxed, and they look like they're 10 years younger. Right? And again, it's not just sleep, but that's a big part of it. So, sleep decreases the internal inflammatory response. I'm a big believer in encouraging people to look at healthy bedtime routines and really sticking to those routines. Don't bring screens into the bedroom. No televisions, no computers, no phones. If your phone is your alarm, then put it on airplane mode and keep it at least 6 feet away from the body and brain. And one day, each week, you need to rest. REST is my little acronym for resist every single temptation to toil. So one day a week, you need to unplug. And I think Dr. Kelly spoke very adequately on that earlier as well. Number 4, slow down and balance. And slowing down means that we're moving toward balance. And do you remember that earlier slide that I had on this topic? So balance, we cannot bring balance into our lifestyle unless we change our thinking. We have to really reshift, and that means running counterculture. Stop allowing the culture to dictate to you what you should be doing, what you should be eating. Like, ignore those awful commercials. They're all big food and big pharma connected, and they're not about your optimal health and wellness. And then again, to look at that bottom point, trim your schedule down. Look at what are the essentials in my life. And by essentials, I mean food, air, water. Those are the first kind of 3, right? And then spiritually, what are some of my essentials? And outside of that, what are some of the things that I need to realize these are absolutely essentials? These ones, not so much, and they're kind of making my life really crazy. So really looking at that. Slowing down by saying no to the non-essentials helps you keep a reserve tank near full. I'm a huge believer that every single person on the planet needs a reserve tank, because you don't know what's around the corner, right? You don't know if your husband's going to be rushed off by ambulance and if there's going to be a death in the family, if someone's very, very ill. You don't know what's around the corner. And if you are running at the speed of light, you have very few reserves for when life goes sideways. So very, very important. So, a quick question around this whole area of balance. How often do you say yes before praying about this commitment? And I mean really, really praying. Asking a friend or a spouse for wisdom. What do you think? What do you think? Number 3, considering if this new commitment means that something else needs to go. Again, we're not going to have balance if we don't have some clarity and some discipline around some of these areas. So we need to find ways to intentionally slow your life down. And this is a slide that I put together just thinking about some of those things that I try to do and ideas that you can maybe consider incorporating. Have one day a week that's screen-free. Keep it away as far as you can for as long as you can. Maybe it's only half a day because of work or whatever, but having screen-free time I think is very valuable. Hang your laundry outside. And I put a little smiley face beside that in case my husband was here for this presentation. And he is. Because he's always razzing me. Why do you hang the laundry out every Saturday? It takes so much time. It's so inefficient, right? And when you're efficiency driven, which I am, it's one of those things that I actually insist that I do because it intentionally slows me down. And I love that. And I look at all of the beautiful benefits of doing that. I get to go out and be in my bare feet. I'm grounded to the planet, which actually has anti-inflammatory properties for the body. I get to listen to God's chorus of birds, which just feeds my soul in such a beautiful way. I'm soaking up the sun and blue sky, and it's beautiful. It starts my crazy busy weekend with some grounding, quiet time. And so that's something intentional that I do. Eat out less, plan and prepare meals together. Here are a few wrapped up in eat together as a family. So at least one time a day, eat together as a family or as a couple. No cell phones or TV allowed. Each family member shares about their day. So there's emotional connectedness, and you stay connected with your kids, and your kids learn at a young age to tell mom and dad about their day. Intentionally chew your food longer. Take time to pre-digest your food and stop inhaling and off you run. So a little rule that you can start, especially when children are young, this is a little easier then. Everyone stays for at least 30 minutes minimum at the table. So it's this quiet time. And I remember giving this slide, this particular point, at a school presentation many years ago. And I had a group of new immigrants come up to me. And in sort of broken English, they were saying, "This is normal, no?" And I said, "Not in Canada, no." So, you know, what is common sense for certain cultures or certain generations is no longer common sense. And even consider a Bible devotion time that's age appropriate for your family. When I was reading up months ago on Dr. Kelly, I found this article online, and it is just outstanding. It's so good. I wish I could have copied and pasted the whole article, but instead I'm going to give you just a minute to just read a little excerpt from it. Just take 20 seconds, and I've included the link on your sheet that you can find this article. So God's highest value is not productivity and efficiency, but love. It's powerful. Number 5, spiritual nourishment. And this is the one that, I could have 6 slides or more, of verse after verse after verse that speaks to our spirit, soul, and body. When I first started coaching, I memorized 1 Thessalonians 5:23 because I love the order that's given, spirit, soul, and body. And what do we do in our upside down man world? We always say body, soul, and spirit. But look at the proper order. And yet, body is there. So God cares about our physical body. And his word repeatedly tells us that he cares. I love Hebrews 4:12. Just the fact that the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even the division of spirit, soul, and joint and marrow, is the translation that I memorized it in. Again, joint and marrow. We know that the word of God is effective for me, my soul and my spirit, but we don't often think about the impact that it has on my body. I think that I'd love to have Dr. Rick dive into, or Dr. Jeremy dive into this passage. I think it's a very interesting concept to think about. Hebrews, not neglecting meeting together. So God never intended us to do church in our pajamas on screen, right? It's wonderful that we can do that if we're not feeling well. But again, the Lord wants us to come together. Why? Because we're unplugging. We're unplugging from our crazy, hectic world and life. and we're meeting together, we're blessing other people are blessing us, and we're building one another up and edifying one another. So there's all these things that we can think about for spiritual nourishment. But one of my favorite little nuggets, and I think maybe Dr. Rick even quoted this on Sunday, in Sunday's powerful sermon, one of my favorite verses, but Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness for prayer. There were always sick people that he was leaving. Don't you care, Jesus? Like, that needed doing, no? There's always more to do, but Jesus often withdrew, and that, to me, says something to us. We need to often withdraw. So we need to trim out the non-essentials, have quieter, what I call be still and know time, right? Make more time and create more energy for our spiritual well-being. As the world becomes a darker and darker place, the only way that our lights are going to shine is if we are spiritually grounded. If Jesus often withdrew, how do I withdraw to nourish my spirit? Am I making quiet time every day to read, to meditate, to pray? And I loved Jeremy's exhortation a few weeks ago. How much time do you spend memorizing God's word? Do you remember the story where he said to the woman who was trying to learn the piano, "Stop it." I kind of laughed and went, "Really?" And his point was, we need more time to memorize the word. If you're not doing that, that's a priority. And so I've been exercising my very old brain with Romans 8. And it's harder as we get older, right? It's harder, but it's good for our brain. We need to do that. And when Jeremy was preaching in Nehemiah, this really struck me when he was in chapter 4. So the quote is 4:9, but we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. And Jeremy used the term that Nehemiah plugged up the holes and set watch day and night with help from others. And it just struck me, wow. From that day on, he had help. And that's really what I recommend in this whole sphere of coaching. This is not a job we can do alone well. So in secular audiences, I always use the term accountability partner. You need an accountability partner. Everybody needs one. But in Christian circles, the term really is discipleship. We need to be discipling one another, and not just in the word, but how are you doing in this area? Like for me, when I had severe food addictions and health issues, I so wish an older woman in the church would have come alongside of me and just lovingly taken me aside and met with me and challenged me and helped to hold me accountable. So we need to do that. We all need help, support, and accountability. Our body, his temple. And as I was reading through earlier this year, Exodus and 1st and 2nd Chronicles, it was very obvious that God cared very much about where he resided, right? The artisans that are named, the tools that are mentioned, it's just the detail, the measurements that are given, everything's so exact and precise. God cares where he resides. If he cared then, does he care any less today? And where does God reside? In us. That's right. So I challenge us to really think about that. Think worship. Surrendering my body, my health, my desires, all of my choices to the Lord in every area of my life can be an act of worship. I wish I would have had that perspective as a younger person. I think it would have made a big difference. So again, don't be overwhelmed as we were rattled through a whole bunch of slides here today. But I want you to choose, as you sat here and listened, what are those 1, 2, 3, no more than 3. What are those areas where God was just saying, you need help in that area. Write them down. So on the front of that take-home handout that I gave you, there's a little spot, 1, 2, 3, write some of those thoughts down. Work on those areas until they have become healthy habits. So for you, it might be, I need to drink more water. And I'm going to start logging how much water I'm drinking. And I'm going to work on that until I am consuming 2 liters of water a day. And once that's habit, and your body loves that, and it's like accepting that, and it becomes like, I need that, and you know you're doing that well, then find another goal. But it's so much easier if you're doing that with somebody else. So find a friend to help be your accountability partner. That will really help. My coaching, one of my coaching phrases that I like to give people a lot is to also remember it's not about perfection. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Always think about this as we're progressing, we're learning, we are going to keep learning. As long as I'm human, I'm going to keep learning until the day I die. So I like to say to people, do the best that you can, as often as you can, and then do not stress about the rest, because the stress is far worse for you than the bad choice that maybe you're struggling with. Does that make sense? And do not give up moving toward a healthy balance. Set your rudder wisely. Your health and your life is like sailing at sea. If you move your ship's rudder only by just 1 little wee centimeter, then after many months, you'll end up somewhere completely different. Your health is the same way. You need to think long term. This is the long game. Little changes collectively make a very big difference over the course of your life. So again, look at setting some goals. I've got a list of them there. The bottom 2, has anyone ever read or watched The Blue Zones? Oh, wow, okay. Fabulous book, like I could not put it down, it's so good. And the Blue Zones documentary, Dwayne and I are actually watching it for the second time. It's so inspiring, so I highly recommend. I've also got some other resources that we can talk about up at my table after. And for those people who need accountability or want to dive into some of these topics in a much deeper way, I'm going to be teaching my 6-week wellness course coming up. I think it starts in 2 Tuesdays. It really dissects each of these components, and we go into much deeper detail. And I have more info on that up at my table as well. And as well, for those that it doesn't suit or you don't want to take a course like that, I also have my cookbook. My cookbook is thanks to my husband, really, because he was the elbow in my ribs that for a lot of years kept saying, you have to write a cookbook. Your food is so good. And at first I thought it was just, young love. You can do no wrong in the kitchen, dear. Make me more pie. But really, he's the one that really kept pushing me to do that. And I remember saying, I'm a nobody. Like, I'm not a chef. I'm not a celebrity chef. Who would ever buy my cookbook? But I'm so thrilled to say it's a Canadian bestseller. And it's exciting because I've had so many people say to me, wow, I never knew healthy could taste so good. And healthy food should taste great. Right? We just need to rewire our palates sometimes. So, thank you. That's kind of like, there's 56 slides. And I like to leave 10 or 15 minutes at the end of a presentation for Q&A. We only have 5, but very quickly, if you have a question, shoot up your hand and I'll take a couple of questions. If you'd like to go, you're welcome to go. Don't feel you have to stick around, but I would like to take questions if there are some. I don't have all of the answers, that's for sure, but if I don't know the answer, I will do everything I can to get back to you. Yes?
Sorry, could you just clarify a bit? You've talked numerous times about trimming a schedule down to essentials, but what is an essential?
Well, an essential is what you deem essential, right? And that's why I said what I said. It's different for everybody, right? We don't have young children, so right now, that's no longer an essential. But if I had young children, they would be an essential, right? I feel that time in God's Word every day is an essential. And does that mean I'm in God's Word every single day? Sometimes I don't get to, but I really, really try. So, for instance, I found I'm sleeping better when I take my Bible to bed. So I try to do bookends. God's Word is a bookend. I start with the Word, I try to finish with the Word. But what I found, I've now put my evening bookend, I try to do my memory work at night, and it helps me fall asleep. So I'll take 5, 10, 15 minutes and working on that passage, and I'm memorizing, and my brain gets tired, and I'm sleeping better, generally. So I think it depends on you. For me, God hardwired our bodies to need healthy food. I think personally that's an essential. Your body needs to be well hydrated. That should be an essential. Our daughter loved swimming, but that wasn't an essential. So I have to decide, right? So I think taking time by trimming out the non-essentials just for a season helps give you perspective on what do I really need to thrive. So I got a text from a friend on Thursday night, and he said, sorry, won't be able to make Bible study tonight, life group, because my son has track and field. So son, 17 years old, school all day, track and field practice after school, rushing probably through a drive-through, and then football from 7 till 10. And then at 10 o'clock, this 17-year-old has got to go home and unwind and fall asleep and then go up and do it all over again. And so is that an essential? It's not for me to judge him. That's his choice. I think he's got to take that between him and the Lord. Does that help a little? Yeah. I think it depends on how you define essential. But essentials as far as healthy, spirit, soul, and body. Yeah.
Is your Tuesday course in person, online? How much does it cost and how long is it?
Good. All those questions will be answered up at the table, but the wellness course is 6 weeks. It's in New Hamburg in our home. Yeah. And there are a few people here that have taken the course. So, yeah, we can chat more about that after.
Yeah, the essential food. What is about the frozen, like frozen blueberries? Is that considered as essential food, or it's just like something canned?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So raw is always best. Raw, in season, and locally picked is always sort of your best, right? So I always say good, better, best. What's best? So that's best. But in December, I'm not going to find local blueberries, right? Right? So frozen is a great option. Yes, because you're taking something that's fresh and you're quickly freezing it, so it's preserving it. It's not canned, but you could dehydrate as well. There's lots of preserving ways, to preserve good, healthy food. And that's one thing I love to do is connect people with local sources. So outside of New Hamburg, for instance, we have, it's that time. I see Tim walking slowly. I said, you're gonna have to do a song and dance after. But I love connecting people to local sources. So we have a blueberry farm, an organic blueberry farm, and we go and I pick like literally, I don't know, like 20 containers like this of raw blueberries, and I freeze them. And so for the whole year, I have those blueberries available in my freezer, right? Or I'll get a quarter of a beef done and freeze it so that I have really more inexpensive beef or chicken. I'll buy in bulk as well from some local farmers that raise really good, healthy produce. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be at my table upstairs after and would love to answer your questions and take more time.
Thank you, Christine.